the week. Warm welcome to you. Welcome back to Hear My Take, your weekly digital show. My name is Joy Tribble, and I am very thankful that you are here. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, press the thumbs up. I need to make sure that the algorithm knows that you, me, he, and she are all here. We are ready to rock and roll, all right? Also, make sure you follow me on all social assets at Hear My Take _. And then that way you can kind of know up to the minute when I'm doing this, when I'm doing that. All of those things, that helps me as well. If you are new here and you don't really know how this works, this is what I do. I provide my perspective. I opine on just about anything. Typically whatever tickles my fancy, whatever cooks my grits. It really doesn't matter what it is. If I want to talk about it and I want to opine, that's what I'm gonna do. But most importantly, I want to have a lot of fun. And I certainly hope you have a lot of fun right along with me. So I'm glad you're here. We got a lot of stuff to get into. And so because I want to hear your take, I want you to hear mine. So I certainly want to hear yours. So grab a snack and get in the chat. Hang out with me for a little while. All right. Now that all of the housekeeping is done, okay? We talked. You know what the rules of the engagement are. Let's get into some of these things that I want to talk to you about this week. All right. So are you ready? Let's get ready to get into highlights and headlines. Of course, we know of the sad intelligence of civil rights giant Reverend Jesse Jackson. He passed this week. Larger than life political figure. He was extremely prolific. He was an icon, a pioneer, of course, during the civil rights movement with the likes of Dr. King, of course, Ralph David Abernathy, Joseph Lowery, a lot of those giants that really put a stake in the ground as it relates to civil rights. He was right alongside of them. Of course, he's the founder of the Rainbow Push Coalition, and just did a lot of good stuff in the community. I was really fortunate to be able to meet him back in 2018. I was working and doing morning radio here in Atlanta, and he came up to the radio station. And so I was just really honored to be in his presence, in his energy, especially knowing the places that he's walked, Selma, and a lot of these other historical moments that he's had. So I was really proud of that moment to be there with him. Of course, he coined the famous phrase, "I may be poor, I may be Black, but I am somebody." And I think that is, especially timely right now with a lot of the things that are happening to minorities right now in this country. He ruffled a lot of feathers. But I think he felt that was necessary to be consequential. I mean, he wanted to make this country a better place. And in a statement from Barack Obama, he said, "I stood on Reverend Jackson's shoulders." So he was very necessary to the progression of our country and to the plight of so many people that feel disenfranchised even now. He suffered from a progressive form of supranuclear palsy, probably for the last decade or so, which is akin to Parkinson's disease. And Reverend Jackson passed away surrounded by his family at 84 years old. I am really curious, though. I wonder if the flags at the White House are going to be flown at half-staff, just like they were for Charlie Kirk. Moving on. Anderson Cooper's in the news. And he is in the news because Anderson Cooper is quitting 60 Minutes. Now, that is really interesting. I mean, Anderson Cooper is probably one of the latest high-profile journalists to depart from CBS. And I think that may have something to do with the new editor-in-chief, and her name is Barry Wise. And Barry Wise has a tendency to be a Trump sympathizer. Now, Anderson Cooper is saying that the reason why he's departing is because he wants to spend some time with his children. He has younger children, and so, he wants to be able to do that. But, I mean, look, Now, look, also, Anderson had been at 60 Minutes, for 20 years, since 2006. But here's the thing about 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is the gold standard, right? Of television journalism. It's the gold standard of where we got like real news, not a lot of this opinionated, pundit stuff. I mean, you knew when you watched 60 Minutes that you were getting hard cold facts. You know that those folks were very well read. They had done their research. I mean, they were what you deem to be the highest level. I mean, think about, the likes of Dan Rather, Mike Wallace. I mean, Harry Reasoner. Like, this is really taking me back to the time when I was a little girl, getting ready for school, getting my rolling up my hair, getting my uniform ready. I went to Catholic school when I was a little girl. But this reminds me, thinking about those names: Ed Bradley, Morley Safer, the Diane Sawyer, like all of these names, these people were, bedrock journalists. I mean, the likes of Walter Cronkite. And so for somebody like Anderson, who I deem was headed in that direction, as it relates to reporting the news factually and not with the, all of this other fluff, for him to be leaving, I believe that says a lot about the current state of what is going on at 60 Minutes and who's at the helm and the direction that they're trying to move into. Now, we all know that Trump sued CBS back in 2024 over his claims about the interview that they aired with Kamala Harris. And so, I mean, look, Anderson can be leaving because he wants to spend time with his children. But I think that there's some other things that are at work there that he just wanted to be able to move along from. And I mean, good on him. Here's what's interesting about CBS and where they are. They are currently trailing ABC and NBC in the ratings, and they are in third place right now. So it's starting just to feel like, to me, like a journalistic Titanic. I mean, folks are jumping ship, and that didn't used to be. That wasn't a thing because of, what 60 Minutes represented and the type of reporting that they did. So we shall see. Also in the news, the New York Times is reporting, along with anonymous government officials, that the Department of Homeland Security, all right, has been requesting social media companies, Google, Meta, Reddit, Discord, that they want them, DHS wants these social media companies to provide for them any information on anyone posting ICE locations, as well as anyone making any anti-ICE content online. And I think this is really interesting. The DHS has sent administrative subpoenas asking for identifying information such as the names and addresses of people that are doing this. Okay. So let's just break this down a little bit, right? So administrative subpoenas, okay, these are not signed by actual judges, nor are they court ordered. Okay. That's not what these are. Judicial subpoenas are signed by judges. Administrative subpoenas are not. So essentially, these social media companies that are complying, it is totally voluntary because there's no there's no legal consequences related to them not handing over this information. And so I'm just wondering, have they done it? Well, the answer is yes. They have already started sending, this information over. Well, at least Google, Meta, and Reddit. Discord has not. But this, guys, is a First Amendment violation to of the highest level. And this is really a fear tactic that is happening at the highest level with the highest companies and their affiliation with this administration. It's a form of mass surveillance, and it's in an effort to control the masses, is to get people to be nervous about speaking out, about using their voice. And I mean, here's also what's interesting. These are the same companies that gave millions of dollars to this administration with his second term, but in the first term they didn't. These companies in this administration's first term were vehemently against capitulating to disclosure to that of people's private information. And so now all of a sudden they want to be, chummying up. Well, that's because they're making tons and tons of ad money, um, and a lot of money by doing these kinds of things. So it's just telling, where we are in our society and the way that people are bending the knee, um, and at what cost? You know what I mean? Like, at what cost? I mean, of course, money, but how much money do you need? I mean, seriously. I mean, what can you not do with the amount of money that you currently have been um, ranking in terms of profit? And look, okay, everybody likes money. I get it. I can understand that. But I just think that this is just going beyond what it just feels really icky, right? It really feels icky. So look, I think if we start to refrain from using our voices, it's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. So they can't shut everybody up. I mean, they're trying, but they just can't shut everybody up. And it's interesting. Thomas Massie, the representative from Kentucky, who, along with Ro Khanna, these are the two. Really, they're working in concert and in a bipartisan way, mind you. They're the ones that they authored the Epstein Transparency Act. Well, Thomas Massie, who is the Republican, mind you, just had an interview with The Reason, and he says he fears that his well-being is at stake over his insistence of justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. I think that is such a shame. I mean, he wrote on X, and why did he have to do this, right? But he wrote on X, "I am not suicidal. I eat healthy food. The brakes on my car and truck are in good shape. I practice good trigger discipline and never point a gun at anyone, including myself. There are no deep pools of water on my farm, and I am a pretty good swimmer." He wrote this on the public platform X so as to wave a warning that should something happen to him, it wasn't his own doing. How have we gotten to such a place in our society where folks are leaving breadcrumbs about, look, if something happened to me, do some deep dive investigation, because this is not me. And it is just telling that the government would blame his loss of life on himself when really they are trying to silence people. And I really think it's so interesting. I mean, the same declaration about their safety was made by Marjorie Taylor Greene. And she was a staunch supporter of 45. And for her, and for her to have to be like, look, ain't nothing wrong with me. I still eat Cheerios. I don't use, I don't put bleach in my Cheerios. Like, this is insane, guys. This is like insane that folks are having to do this in an effort to bring about justice for little girls. Now, these are little girls, young women that are grossly impressionable and defenseless in some ways. I mean, and Thomas Massie goes on to say, it would be a lot easier politically to get reelected if I just, wanted to ignore the Epstein files and call them a hoax. But he said, I'm not willing to do that. And I really appreciate people that are willing to stand in the face of massive pressure, to say, I know that me remaining silent is something that I can do, but I just cannot stand by and allow this grave injustice to happen. I mean, I was looking at something on social media, and I saw a guy in the Atlanta airport yelling to the top of his lungs. He was screaming. He was incensed. And he just kept saying, we are not angry enough. We're not angry enough about what is happening or what has happened and what they're doing to hide um, the information in these files and what these powerful men have done, and the manipulation that is happening. I mean, I don't know if you realize this, but in a spiritual way, manipulation is a form of witchcraft, right? It's demonic, right? And so what is happening? The Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but of principalities and spirits in high places and wickedness and such. Y'all, that stuff is happening. And because they're holding this stuff so tightly, you know that this is something really evil at work, really, really evil. You know, I think it's also telling, you know, with a lot of the things that are happening in terms of commentary, people using their First Amendment rights. And I don't know if, well, maybe you are familiar. You should be familiar with James Talarico. Okay. And he is the guy who is running for the Senate seat in Texas against Jasmine Crockett. He is a Democrat as well. Right. But he, like most politicians do, they run campaigns, they run, they run media, right? And so he did Stephen Colbert, right? And so his appearance on Stephen Colbert has drawn so much chatter, right? So much chatter. And so prior to, him doing the show and the show airing on the Stephen Colbert show, which is under CBS, there's those three letters again. There's a lot going on at CBS, but the attorneys at CBS asked for the script for this segment because they wanted to preview it to give legal guidance. Is that right? Legal guidance. And so, okay, they did it. Stephen Colbert, they allowed the attorneys to preview it, and CBS approved it. Okay? Everything was all systems go. All right? Lo and behold, it was stopped. It was stopped. And they couldn't air it any longer on broadcast television because they are saying that it was a violation of what they're calling the equal time rule. All right. And so I'm familiar with this rule because what it is supposed to do, it is supposed to allow political candidates as well as their opponents or other people from the opposing political party to have the same amount of equal time on said show, right? So they were saying that with James Talarico being on Stephen Colbert, that it was a violation of the equal time rule. Here's what's interesting about this, y'all. They're not applying the same rule to talk radio, right? I know about talk radio. I used to do talk radio. Okay. I was on the radio. So I understand what this rule is, but they're not applying it to talk radio because most talk radio leans conservative, right? I remember being a young radio girl, right? And because I was really, my friends say I'm nosy, but I call it curious. All right. I'm just a little curious out here. Okay. I mean, I just like to know stuff, all right? And so I used to listen to, conservative radio from the likes of Neil Bortz. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Neil Bortz or Rush Limbaugh, but I always wanted to know, what? Okay, I know what I believe. And a lot of the people that I, am in relationship with, I know what they believe, but I don't like echo chambers, right? I want to know what other people are talking about. So I would listen to conservative talk radio. They are not applying this equal time rule to, conservative radio. Here's what else is interesting about this. Jasmine Crockett had already been on Stephen Colbert. So there was no violation about, them trying to be fair about, well, we can't air him because we didn't let Jasmine Crockett. No. Jasmine Crockett had already been on. So, I mean, what they really trying to say? Well, let's give it a gander, y'all. This is weaponization, right? Because 45 doesn't like it, and the FCC chair is running interference to try to keep any anti-voices off the air. Let's call a spade a spade. This is what's happening. So he has his minions, trying to institute certain rules and things to make people believe that they're trying to be fair and balanced and we're trying to do the right thing for everybody. Meanwhile, that's a lie. because it's all smoke and mirrors. And so that is what's happening with James Talarico. The election in Texas for this particular Senate seat, early voting just started earlier this week. Right now, Jasmine Crockett, in the polls is up at 38%. She's got 38% of the vote currently, and James Talarico has 31% of the vote. So, I mean, listen, Republicans are a little bit nervous because this particular seat is typically a Republican seat. So they're really nervous because their strength is weakening in these areas where they are dominantly or predominantly rather red all the time. And so I always wonder, like when 45, gets involved in people's campaigns and endorses them and or just starts to put his mouth on stuff. And listen, and he might even like that I'm saying this, but I think sometimes it's detrimental. But like when he puts his mouth on stuff, oftentimes it boosts people's cachet, right? It boosts, it puts more eyeballs on them because he's always stirring up some stuff. And it's typically when he's trying to disenfranchise people, it does the opposite. I mean, think about what happened with Don Lemon. I mean, we all of us know Don Lemon, but it really pushed Don Lemon up right into the conversation on social media, on, regular network news. I mean, Obama with, the post that he made on social with him and his wife. I mean, every time he puts himself in something thinking that he's going to put folks on their back feet for whatever reason, it always seems to work in that person's favor. I mean, the last time, and so here's what happened. They did not air it on Stephen Colbert, right? They did not air it, but it did go on YouTube. And the last time I checked on YouTube, this interview clocked in at 6 million views. Hello. It probably wouldn't have even gotten that many views had he left well enough alone. But YouTube, 6 million views. And by the way, okay, James Talarico's campaign has raked in $2.5 million in the 24 hours after it aired on YouTube because of all of this mess. Because of all of this talk, and so I just wonder, when is he going to learn, right? And when I say he, I mean 45. Just leave stuff alone, man. Like, you don't have the Midas touch. I got the Midas touch. Everything I touch, baby, it turns to coal. It does not turn to gold. You hear me? Baby, it don't turn to gold, bro. Okay, so just leave stuff alone, man. Doggone. Speaking of leaving stuff alone, that press secretary, honey, that Caroline Leavitt is something else. And her too. She's another one that gets exposed, by dying on these heels, right? With the things that she says that expose her. And then it ultimately it just continues to erode, her credibility. So yesterday during the press briefing, she was asked about the legitimacy of the posts that come out of Truth Social, right? And claiming that anything that comes, from that platform comes directly from the president, okay? That's what she says, that's what you need to know. Anything that comes, okay, is directly from the president, all right? So take a listen.
Taken as the policy of the Trump administration. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth. When you see it on Truth Social, it's directly from President Trump. That's the beauty of this president and his transparency and relaying this administration's policies to all of you and to the rest of the world.
So she says any posts that come out of Truth Social is direct policy from the president. It is him making the claim. It is him doing it. He is the one that is activating said post. All right. So now, last week, when they were asked about them posting that post about the Obamas and the apes and all of that stuff, take a listen to what she had to say about that.
Well, look, Laura, it was a meme that was posted by a staffer on the president's Truth Social account. It was from a Lion King video depicting, as you pointed out, different Democrats as different animals. I think Kamala Harris was depicted as a turtle in this video meme. The president did take it down. He spoke with lawmakers today out of respect for them, including Senator Tim Scott. The post was removed. But leave it to the leftist media, of course, to talk about this all day, rather than talk about the fact that the Dow has broken over 50,000 points for the first time in our nation's history. Well,
Caroline, baby, Caroline is lying. Caroline, baby, Caroline Levitt is lying, y'all. Can you believe it? Y'all, I cannot. I get so wound up about these kinds of things because I just can't believe. I just can't believe how they just sit up there and lie. I mean, even Trump, when he was asked about it, he went so far as to say that he didn't even see the video of the Obamas. And then he was like, well, I mean, it was the Lion King, and then baby, apes are not in the Lion King. All right, so look, let's play a game called I Believe Y'all. All right, let's just play that. We believe y'all, I believe y'all. But my question is, if we play this game, okay? We're gonna play a game. Let's play the game, y'all. What exactly do they want us to believe? Okay. How much do they want us to ignore? Okay. Which part of what they said do they want us to believe is credible? Okay. Let's just play the game, right? So what happens when the press corps is with them on Air Force One or in front of the White House and, they bring up certain things, right? Or if the press corps brings up a certain thing, right? And then they lie in our face, right? They lying, right? And then you challenge said lie, right? You push back and be like, I don't really know. Or you ask a question, baby, then they out here calling folks piggy. Remember when 45 called the lady piggy when she was like, well, President, I just think quiet piggy. Remember that? Okay. So you can't even push back. And then they lied about saying that they didn't call her piggy, but they called her Peggy. Y'all, let me tell you something. Her name ain't even Peggy. Baby, her name is Catherine. Her name is not Peggy. Her name is Catherine. And she is a reporter with the Wall Street Journal, I believe. I mean, it just becomes unreal. And you know what? And you don't, you don't want to laugh, but y'all, after a while, it just starts to get really funny because you just don't know which way to turn your head. You don't know how to pin them down to make it so that what they're telling you is the truth. I mean, if we had $1 for every time they lied, the country would not be in a doggone deficit, okay? Because the way these people lie is just unbelievable. All right, y'all ready for Champs and Chumps? All right, coming up first, number one for Champs and Chumps, ladies and gentlemen, is none other than the Jill Scott. Woo, baby! Jill Scott has just released a new album. It is entitled To Whom It May Concern. Jill Scott released this banger of an album around Valentine's. It features 19 tracks. I mean, it is just the epitome of Jill Scott. I mean, are you like me and you just missed her music? I mean, of course, she's got several albums, to boot so far with her career being as long and as extensive as it is. But I was just so happy that Jill Scott was back making music. And you know what? I'm not even mad that she took the hiatus. I mean, sometimes you just really need to sort of step away, right? And and rest and reassess and just kind of figure out, what you want to do next. So, Jill Scott actually had an appearance on NPR's Tiny Desk. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you go check it out. I mean, Jill Scott for me, y'all, Jill Scott is like my go-to for karaoke. All right. You're getting in the way of what I'm feeling. Sugar honey girl, I know you don't understand. Gonna have to understand. He's my man now. Like, Jill Scott, that's my girl, okay? And I'm really, really happy she's back. So kudos to her. The last time she released an album, though, was 2015. So what is that? That's about 10 years. 2015 to 11 years. And so kudos and congratulations goes out to her as number one champ coming in this week. Next coming in is Fantasia. So I love me some Fantasia. Black girls rock all the things, right? I love Fantasia. And I don't know if you have seen this post that is going around from a concert that happened in Houston on Valentine's Day. But her husband, Kendall Taylor, says that, when they got married, that he did not properly propose to her. So at her concert on Valentine's Day, he did. 11 years ago, they got married, or maybe 11 years ago is when he proposed, but he said he didn't properly propose. And he said, most Valentine's Days, I'm having to share you with the rest of the world. And so this particular Valentine's Day, y'all, he came out on stage and he was adorned in white and stuff, and he came out with flowers and stuff, and it was just so romantic, But more importantly, I just really appreciated, his outward expression of love, acknowledging their journey, the things that they've gone through, their covenant. He said that, every day you choose me, every day you do so many amazing things for our family. And I just really appreciated that moment that we were all able to share in, right? I mean, I think there's so much talk about, divorce and people not getting along and, the challenges that relationships go through, and men and women just we seem to be butting heads all the time. And so when there's a moment like that comes up and we can see love being celebrated, I mean, it certainly needs to be, acknowledged. And so, I typically, often wonder, I think we should amplify, right? And celebrate, sticking and staying and working through the hard places, right? And making, behavioral adjustments, right? Like when we get into relationships, look, and sometimes the older you get, the harder it is, right? Because you're kind of stuck in your ways already, and so you're just like, man, please, I mean, I'm coming in as me and I just kind of just let me be me and all this other stuff. But, I think we have to learn to love our partner enough to do what they need, right? And to let them know that they're heard. And in doing so, we can make those, those behavioral adjustments because that's what they need. I mean, and I know, people love so differently. But like, what are your love languages? You know what I'm saying? Like, are you the type of person that likes, to hear words of affirmation? Are you the kind of person that likes acts of service or time well spent? Are you a combinations person? For me, I like to hear my sweetheart. I like for him to say, babe, I love you. Like, I like to hear that audibly. That does something to my ear gate. And it just kind of, it connects with me. It connects with my heart in a way. So I really like hearing that. I also like acts of service. And if we call it acts of service, gifts, baby, I love gifts. Everybody in my family kind of know I made up a song called I Love Gifts, and I love gifts. And so it's just not really one way with me because I like a gift. More importantly, I think what I'm really trying to say is I like mindfulness, right? I like for you to be mindful of me, the things that that I like. Oh man, that just does something to me. So I'm more of a combinations person when it comes to love languages. But shout out to Fantasia and her husband, and just that outward expression of love. That was really, really a nice sight to see, especially around Valentine's Day. Also, coming in at number 3 is the Kane. But I ain't talking about T.I., baby. I am talking about King Charles. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Baby, King Charles, huh? You got to give him a little credit. As it relates to this Prince Andrew situation, I mean, look, he did not get in the way of justice, because his brother was arrested today. And he just allowed the law to operate with autonomy. Prince Andrew was arrested today on suspicion of misconduct while being in public office, and his actions were related to him allegedly sharing sensitive and confidential government document information with Jeffrey Epstein while he served as the UK trade envoy. All right, so they're not necessarily saying that it had anything to do with those picture pages, okay? But I do wonder what that confidential governmental information happened to be. You know what I mean? But he was arrested, and baby got arrested on his birthday. Today is his birthday, and they arrested that man on his birthday. I applaud King Charles for that, because I don't really know the full status of their relationship, but I think that him just kind of allowing things to be, that's noble. Do I want to say noble? I respect it, because it has to be hard, for somebody that is your family. I mean, it also makes the monarch look really crazy, right? When these kinds of things are happening. And that's probably why he allowed the arrest to go through. I mean, it has been nearly 400 years since the first senior British royal arrest occurred. 400 years? I mean, maybe he wanted to try to keep a clean slate, 400 years? So I respect that, and I appreciate the accountability. All right. So let's get into these doggone chumps, okay? First, coming in at number 1 is none other than DJT 45 himself. I don't know if you are aware, but he has moved to trademark airports bearing his name. Okay. His company has filed a trademark application for the name Donald J. Trump International Airport. Now, this is supposed to be renaming the Palm Beach International Airport. All right. So they've trademarked this name already. And this airport happens to just be Chicago. And this trademark, they're saying, will allow for him to have a full suite of airport branded merchandise like luggage, handbags, purses, watches, jewelry, clothing, tie clips. I mean, they're even saying that the initials DJT could become the new airport code. Baby, if that ain't a chump, I don't know what is. And what is his obsession with putting his name on everything? I don't know if you saw that today or maybe a day or so ago, that they put up this huge banner on the Department of Justice. Let me tell you something. Do some research, okay? Do some research on Germany. You know where I'm going. Back in the 30s and 40s. All right, go do some research on that, and go look at the buildings and what was placed on the side of the buildings for the particular leader that was in charge of Germany back in those days, and see if you don't see some semblance of some really, really familiar activities. I just think it's really strange, because I just don't understand why Congress isn't pushing back on this. I mean, even some of the Republicans that are in the party, I mean, once upon a time, y'all, this would have really been abhorrent behavior. Folks would be clutching their pearls, and nobody seems to be moving. Nobody seems to be sounding the alarm on this kind of behavior. And I just don't understand what the stalemate is. I can imagine that it probably, he probably has stuff on folks, And again, nobody wants to get kicked out of the country club. You know what I mean? And so people are just capitulating to all of this behavior. And it's just, it's becoming, it is exposing us. You know what I mean? It is really, really exposing us, our inaction, right? It's showing us, to me, what we really think is important, right? But here's what they need to remember is that them tables always turn. And at some point, as much as they are trying with this midterm, okay, at some point you're just not going to be in power. Or some point, certain people are going to expire, right? And you're not going to be here anymore. And all of this, what you're doing, it's just not gonna continue. And folks are going to get you back. I mean, I think his name is Ted Lieu. I believe that is his name. A member of Congress said to Pam Bondi at her hearing when she was testifying. I know maybe he didn't say it to her, but he said it on social media. It was a post, and he said, "You need to know that we're gonna get you, and we are going to impeach you." So this thing is not over, and I just hope that they realize that just because you're out of office don't mean that you cannot be held responsible for your actions. So moving along. So listen, I am a girl that likes The View. Okay. Again, I know people might say, well, that is really Democratic leaning, and those women are a bunch of, cackling hens and such. But I like, the opposing commentary, right? And so I really used to like it when Meghan McCain was on, because again, I don't like the echo chamber. And so Savannah Chrisley is on because Sarah Griffin, is her name Sarah Griffin? I can't remember her name, but she's the conservative arm of The View. She's out on maternity leave, okay? But Savannah Chrisley is on, and I want to play for you something that she said that sent the ladies at the table in an uproar. Take a listen.
To witness is people stating that the president is a racist, because I've seen him firsthand. He saved one of my best friend's lives, a black woman who has been with him for 18 years. So he has a black friend. He's a racist. No, he saved her life. No, he did. Okay.
When you target DEI programs with executive office, from your with executive orders, your first week in office, arguing that the policies undermine national unity. When you shared racist posts about the Obamas, when you pursued the death penalty for the exonerated 5, after you knew they had been exonerated. These are the reasons that his behavior is so hard. And I don't know whether you know about this, but in the 70s, he was accused of discriminating against black tenants because he wouldn't rent to them. He didn't want and so
was that an accusation?
No, that was a proven fact. They took him to court.
A thing. Donald Trump is a racist. There's no question in my mind. It's time to say the truth and tell it like it is. And the most recent thing that he did by posting on Truth Social, the Obamas depicted as apes in The Lion King, where there are no apes in The Lion King. That was a racist act. He tried to blame a staffer. A staffer did not do it.
It was a staffer who posted it. It was in fact a staffer who posted it.
Can we please roll the clip?
It was a staffer who posted it.
Should be taken as the policy of the Trump administration. It's coming straight from the horse's mouth. When you see it on Truth Social, you know it's directly from President Trump.
President Trump is a racist.
He is not.
Put that clip of the Obamas
for the first time in history, HBCUs got permanent funding under the Trump administration.
That funding was started
before. Yeah.
That funding was started, Savannah, sweetheart, before Donald Trump got into office.
That thing about the Obama?
I agree wholeheartedly that the White House failed when it came to the posting of that video, because it is the White House's responsibility to protect the minority groups that lost friendships and relationships over just standing for President Trump. So the White House failed on that. What's so
So Savannah Chrisley is coming up as number 2 on the Trump's list this week. And so, you know, a lot of people that want to try to wave away the racist moniker that, I mean, Trump being a racist, a lot of people try to wave that away, right? And they use the statistic of President Trump gave the most consistent money to HBCUs. President Trump gave HBCUs like all of this money. So they love to use that particular statistic. But let's talk about the facts, okay? Did Donald Trump give HBCUs money? Yes. This administration gave $225 million to HBCUs. Okay, that is a fact. The Obama administration gave HBCUs $4 billion. Savannah. The Biden administration gave HBCUs $16 billion. Savannah. So, darling, when you try to use this one statistic about all of this money that Donald Trump gave HBCUs, baby girl, you have got to tell the full story. My best friend is the person, she always says when she's talking about certain things, baby, give me all the information. Okay, Savannah girl, you in danger, girl, because you're not giving all of the information. And so you can't sit up there and try to use that to protect him from all of the racist things that he does as to try to say, well, I threw you a bone. You should just know that I'm not a racist anymore. That is just fundamentally untrue and it's disingenuous, to be quite honest, right? Now let me be fair, okay? I used to love Chrisley Knows Best. Let me just keep it honest. I used to love that little show. I used to like her daddy and the grandmother and all that. I liked the show. Shout out to the show, okay? But and look, I know why. We all should know why she's feeling the way she does about 45. But I think it's dying on these hills about him or some of these people that gets folks like Savannah Chrisley in trouble. You know, I just think that I get it. He saved your father and your mother and got them out of jail and he pardoned them and all of those things. And to me, you know, I think it is enough for you to say that you're grateful. And you can even say that publicly and be grateful and then just allow that to be it. You know, all of this, I'm trying to fight the fight for him and on his behalf. It's just not a good look, Savannah girl. It's just not a good look. So I just think it's really interesting and people need to be really careful when they make certain statistical or bring up certain statistical data information and they don't give the whole story because that can really, really get you in a lot of trouble. Listen, what y'all doing? What y'all doing next week? All right. Because coming up next week, I want to give you some of the information so that you can forecast. All right. The State of the Union is happening next week. Are you going to be ready for that? That's coming up on Tuesday, the 24th at 8 p.m. Are you watching? All right, we're going to do a little forecasting here because, again, I always want you to leave informed and very aware as to what is going on. I certainly want you to be able to make your own takes about certain things, but the State of the Union is coming up, all right? Now, y'all know it's going to be a bunch of the greatest hits, right? We have the largest, our economy was dead, and now we're the best economy in the world, and all of this other foolishness. It's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be a lot of restated grievances, a lot of fake news, a lot of embellishments, and a lot of just being just vapid, right? And vapid means, here's your SAT word for the week. Here's your college word of the week. Vapid means someone that is dull, boring, lacks substance, liveliness, or intelligence, okay? So when you watch next week, remember the word vapid and see if anything connects there. Vapid, VAPID, vapid. That is your SAT word for the week. All right, y'all ready for the weekend? Listen, we made it to the best day of the week. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. If you made it this long, I really, really appreciate you. I am so glad that you came to hang out with me for the ride. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Follow me on all social media at HearMyTake_. And the best compliment that you could give me is to share this video. Share other videos that you see that I'm opining and giving my perspective and my purview on other things that are going on in the world. I'm still working out the king shawl, all right? As you can see that I'm vertical, which is cool, but we're going to get our platform squared away. So stay with me, stick with me. Baby, we going somewhere, all right? We're going to ride this thing to the wheels fall off. You know, I really want us to see how good this thing can get, all right? So as we depart, I want you to remain in heavy pursuit of the things that bring you joy, all right? As you're moving along in life, remember, use me as a testament to birth your thing, all right? Do your thing your way, all right? I'll see you next week, next Thursday at 8. Come hear my take, all right? God bless you. I'll see you next time.